Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending this Explore the Columbia Basin Water Hub webinar series, which is going to take place over the next 3 days. We're going to look at the capabilities of the Columbia Basin Water Hub. However, before I start, today I'm talking to you from Castlegar, BC, and I would like to take the time to respectfully honor and acknowledge that I live and work in the traditional territories of the Ktunaxa, Secwepemc, Silks, and Sinixt peoples. And this is also just a reminder that these webinars will be recorded, and so you may either work alongside with me as we tour the Water Hub. You can find the link on the chat box there, and if you can't see it, let me know in the chat, and Nicole maybe can send that over again for everybody. So yeah, you can work on your own screen and kind of follow along with me, or you can listen along and follow as I kind of take you everyone through the tour today. The recordings will be posted on the Water Hub website, and you can refer back to them at any time in the new year once we release to the public. Okay, so let's start off with a little bit about me. My name is Santiago, as everyone knows now, and I'm the database manager at the Water Hub. I am also currently finishing my last year at the Geographic Information Systems program at Selkirk College. And currently my role as a data manager centralizes itself around testing and finalization of the database, as well as developing various processes for data management, uploading, curating, and data stewardship. Another one of my roles is to aid all groups in the upload, management, and identifying data priorities and needs in order to start kind of really knitting together a collaborative, coordinated, and open approach to the monitoring of our precious waters in the basin. And just a quick disclaimer here. The process to create our Water Hub has been and will continue to be an iterative process, one as we try to meet the data needs in the basin. We have been working with monitoring groups and receiving feedback, and we're broadening our outreach by ensuring that we include First Nations, government, industry, and the public in the decision-making process and how we meet data needs all throughout. We are and will always be a work in progress as we receive feedback from our users, or you, and everyone who could benefit from open water data. And so with that in mind, this webinar is an opportunity to see the Water Hub in action. And as a user, learn how to take full advantage of this resource, as well as ensuring that we provide a platform for discussion and feedback. And so by now you must be wondering, well, what is the database all about? Ultimately, I really see the database as a water bottle. And I really think that the people over at DataStream identified that very, very well. And they're a little bit of an inspiration for me while creating this. And they define themselves as being a perfect container to be able to hold water data. And that analogy has stuck with me ever since. So now the Water Hub will act as a central repository for all kinds of water information within the basin. Monitoring efforts within our basin have been taking place for a long time, and there is data that has been collected which may be sitting on hard drives that eventually could get lost between the cracks. Our aim is to be a container for that information, as I said, by to ensure it's the data longevity, data access, and use in future climate change studies and decision making. We also know that climate change is happening, and water resources will be the primary medium through which climate change impacts are going to be felt the most. Water scarcity is a real issue that we're feeling already. The water monitoring framework that is being developed for the Columbia Basin will mean more strategic and focused monitoring efforts, and the Water Hub will be the point for storage of this data. So we're basically trying to be that convergent place for all the data that is being collected. Communities must understand future water risks and how to build climate change resilience as we move into this really uncertain future. Providing a platform for storing data, curating it, and ensuring that it meets different criteria of quality, we aim to empower a water literate constituency, putting a focus on water issues that affect specific communities and areas in a basin with a varied topography, climate, water bodies, and culture. The Water Hub will provide a variety of data. Sorry, I got totally focused on what I was talking about and forgot about my slides here. And so we're going to provide a whole variety of data. And this is going to include, but it's not going to be restricted to tabular data, such as CSVs and Excel files, PDFs, GIS data, so shapefiles, geodatabases, map files, media, sound, image, and video, as well as text documents. So you can really see that we try to encompass everything and every single way in which data takes shape in the basin. And this will also include, we kind of fall into the categories of rivers, streams, lakes, groundwater, wetlands, alpine ecosystems, and climate, as providing standards for uploads and aiding in meeting provincial standards for QA and QC protocol to be taken on. So the way that our database works is with CCAN. And CCAN is an open source database service, which runs with something called instances. And so instances is where you can see metadata, which is stored, which shows the data stored within CCAN. And so you're not always holding that in like that web page, for example, but rather it's just something like a front for a store that has a warehouse in the back. And with CCAN, there's a little bit of terminology that we kind of have to go over in order to understand everything. In CCAN, datasets are comprised of resources, which are files contained within said dataset. And we'll get a better understanding when we actually look at the database and see how that works. CCAN also uses something called types and groups, which are used as themes in CCAN, which can be used to easily search for different topics. And again, we'll get to see how that works in a second. And before we begin the tour, I just want to remind everyone that our Water Hub is still a work in progress and will continue to be as we navigate through the different needs for communities and groups. Currently, there are some minor details that will change. However, as we receive feedback from you participants on how we can improve our Water Hub before it's being released to the public, we might see it change a little bit. All right, so without further ado, I'll take everybody here to the Water Hub. And minimize this and Firefox. And I'm sure everybody can still see my screen. Is that true? The Water Hub showing up? Awesome. Okay, so this is the main page where you arrive when you click on our link. This is the main page where you arrive when you access the link, hopefully saved in your bookmarks. And so as you can see in first glance, it's clean. There's not much to really take your eye away. And here we have a little bit of our mission and what the Water Hub is about. Then a little bit further down, the first thing that you can already do is look for data. That's what we're interested in. And we'll touch base a little bit in about 10 minutes about this. And then under here, you can also see icons for the categories or groups that I was talking about. And these are also changing. As you can see, they're all over the place. We might change what is actually represented within these categories, as we want to make sure that we're really covering topics that are important to communities. Now, at the bottom, we have a data disclaimer. Here, we state that the data used and hosted within the Water Hub may not always be accurate, and that our users should always do their due diligence when using data for different purposes, and that we, the Water Hub, and our uploaders are not liable for whatever that data is being used for. In order to kind of help mitigate data quality, we will use a QAQC process using parameters that are outlined within British Columbia's Risks, Water Quality, and Quantity manuals, as well as using upload templates, data reviews, and curation of data sets through a systematic approach. Basically, me going into your data set, making sure your metadata is complete, and going into the data itself and making sure that there are no weird outliers or that the data makes sense altogether, perhaps in formatting, just really getting into the data, ensuring that we go through all of it and nothing gets missed. We will talk more about data standards and our upload templates and whatnot tomorrow. Now, let's keep looking through our database here. Our next section is going to be organizations. And organizations are my favorite. And thank you, Bill, so much for being the first one to have the most awesome profile so far. Bill Cody, thank you so much for this. Like I said, I hope it's okay that I use it, but it's a good representation of what your profile could look like in our database. I think this is a really useful feature as you can organize users within your organization and allow them to do different things. And so yourself as an admin, for example, you can really control who is able to edit, download your data sets, and who can provide different links and access it through different APIs. And so that would all depend on what your specific data management needs are going to be. Okay, I really think that the organization's feature also really highlights the organization that you're working with, where you're able to have a description about your organization, a picture, and it works very well like a social media profile, where I, as a user, I already follow Bill here, but I, as a user, can follow or unfollow him. And that way I always keep up to date as to the most recent data uploaded. Here, I can also see the different data sets that they've uploaded. I can see that they've uploaded 3 XLSX files, or just tabular data in Excel format, and the license that they use. We'll get a little bit more into licenses tomorrow. Altogether, I really think that this level of data ownership has, these groups are also able to choose if whether a data set is public or private. We'll get a little more into that later when we're uploading data tomorrow. I really think that it creates a new level of data ownership by allowing organizations to bring up the issues that are faced by individual groups and communities within our very culturally and environmentally diverse basin. So we're kind of trying to be that platform to be able to make all the voices heard through data, which I kind of really like coming from the open data perspectives. All right, so now that we got over the organizations part, we can go and sidetrack a little bit to our help and our about. So in our help section, and please again keep in mind that it's going to change as we start filling out the resources. We're going to provide a whole array of documentation that you'll be able to use. This will include such things as these webinars that we're hosting right now, as well as tutorial videos, which will show in detail the different steps and workflows for joining and logging in, searching and downloading datasets, formatting and uploading data, data standards and metadata, and data analysis using CCAN's API. In the help section, you'll also find more information as the user manual that you can find right here. You can also find the handout about the Columbia Basin, as well as descriptions about what we believe open data is, information of the licensing that we use, provincial water standard manuals, as well as other sources of data. And here are links on federal databases, provincial databases, other important databases that I highlighted here, and some additional resources when it comes to open data, licenses, open data handbook, and a variety of things. Now we can move on here to our about section. And this about section has everything you need to know about what the Water Hub is, as well as Living Lakes Canada, and about some of the other organizations that we've collaborated with, and about our developer for the CCAN instance, and just a little bit about CCAN too. Now let's go over our datasets page. So here in datasets page is where a lot of us are going to find ourselves looking for data. Within the database view, the user is able to do a variety of things in order to find the data that they're looking for. Users are able to do a word search using keywords, which I'll demonstrate in just a minute, as well as filter by file type that you can do just on here. Just like hidden formats, so file type, licenses, tags. So this would be groundwater, biomonitoring, flow, as well as groups. And then on the right side here, you're able to order all the different data sets by relevance, name, modified, some pretty basic stuff to be able to sort through through all this data. And also most of these data sets here right now are tests. And so let's do keep that in mind as we kind of walk through this process. Okay, so in order to download data, you do not need to be signed in as a user. However, if you're a data uploader or steward in your organization, you'll need an account created by us, and then you'll receive an email with a link to create your profile. And before I go on, I didn't want to send just an email to everyone who's participating right now, not knowing if you like to sign on or not. And I personally dislike kind of emails like that. And so if you would like to be signed on for tomorrow's webinar and you can follow along and upload your own data, please send me an email after the webinar and then I can just sign you up really quickly. And then when I sign you up, you will receive an email from the Water Hub with a link. And within that link, you'll be taken to the Water Hub where you'll be able to change your username. And a really, really, really big note here, and I'll highlight it in my email there too, is that you can only change your username at that point. And so if you don't change it there, you'll end up with a username like I did, because I didn't know that. And so just please be mindful if that's an issue for you, that you do it now, because otherwise we'll have to change it in the backend, either the developer or myself, and that takes a little bit more effort. And so then you'll create and confirm a password and you're all set. And you'll be logged in and taken to this screen right here. Here, you can manage your details and account info, like your full name, your email, a little information about yourself, which I haven't done and will do. So stay tuned for that one. And you can also change your password and the regenerate API keys, just in case your API key became public. And so in case you lost it, something happened, becomes corrupt, this is how you regenerate, and we'll talk more about that on Thursday. Okay, so let's go back to our little user here. You can also see your activity stream. So this will show all the different activity that you had ever since you logged in. And you can see your followers and everything. And then if you're in this page, you can do also something pretty cool, that you can go here and look for users. And so I already grabbed Bill before, so let's grab chat views from the Elk River Alliance. And so here, he hasn't uploaded anything, and it's nothing here yet, but he's a user. And so, sorry, no, my cat decided to get on top here. So he doesn't have anything here yet, but you would see other things, and I can, like the way that you saw it on my profile, and here I can click follow, and then I'll be alerted whenever Chad decides to upload something. All right. So now I would like everybody to put on your data hats. So we're gonna put on our data hats and we're gonna go searching for some data. That says data, just it's backwards, but okay. Now let's go ahead and search for some data sets. So first I will try to search for data sets using, I totally realized I skipped our map search in groups. I got too excited about data, and that's kind of what happens to me. So this is our map search. This is our map search area tab. And so this is a really easy way for you to start looking for data sets. Here, as any other map search interface, is very simple. Right now, Bill, I hope you're okay with me still picking on you, but I would really like to go find out what's happening in Rossland. And so I'm gonna zoom in to Rossland because I know where it is. Here's Rossland, and wow, look at that. So there is one water quality set right here, Trail Creek watershed temperature in the tributaries. And there's others that were classified as others. And so we can see that as well here. And so that's in a nutshell with this mapping, where we can use this mapping ability to look for data sets. And very quickly, before I forget as well, here's our group section. And so here's where you'll be able to look for different data sets depending on their themes. And so I'm interested in cabin. So I can see that one cabin data set is under the cabin group. I'm also interested to see what kind of water flow we have. Okay, well, there's 2 water flow data sets here. And then water quality. Oh, great, here's Bill's data set. Awesome, so now that we've done that, we can go back on track and do our searching. So, okay, we can do the normal search like I just showed you in the map search feature, but we can also do just our regular word search as you usually do in any other database. So right now, I am interested in finding out different temperatures in the creeks around Trail. And so, as easy as that, I'm just going to type in here. I'm going to go with Trail. And as any other word search or query like this, plus, and I'm also interested in temperature. Enter. And of course, everything that has those two words within their title will show up. And that is a really easy way for us to just be able to see something very fast and quickly. Okay, we can also go back if this didn't quite satisfy what you're looking for, and you have a more general kind of idea of what you need. You can look for an organization if that's what you're looking for. So let's say, oh, I want to see what Living Lakes Canada is up to. So just click on them, and then there you go. All the different data sets uploaded by Living Lakes are going to show up. And you'll still see the private data sets show up. And that all that means that you just not be able to preview them or download them, but you'll just see their metadata there anyways. You can also filter by groups. You can filter by tags, as I mentioned before. And so now that we have that, I would like to take you through a little bit of our previewability. And just a quick note before I go on to previews, is that the preview is determined by proper formatting and uploading of the dataset, meaning machine readability. And so if you're familiar with 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 that term, you know what I mean. But if you don't, that is the ability of a file to be read by a computer. And so CSV files, Excel files, text files that are properly formatted, they can be pretty easy. CSV files, super simple. First you have the headers separated, and then you have the values separated, and so on. But that'll depend on having specific formatting available within your tabular data. Obviously, that doesn't apply to things like PDFs or maps, only tabular data. Okay, so let's go in here and preview, say, this data set. So let's check out Valais Creek temperature, just a quick preview. And maybe some of you are familiar with Data VC, Data Catalog VC, and it's pretty similar workflow as, or kind of like look as they have as they also run on CCAN. So I click on preview here, and it's a good example so you can see that formatting will have an effect. So this is obviously not right. I mean, not right as in like the data is not correct or corrupt or anything like that. However, if I wanted to query this in analysis using Python, for example, I would get a very weird set of results. And so here is where adding things like this on a second page would be, or a second worksheet would be very helpful. Because CCAN, what it does is that it'll grab, for example, in Excel files, I have a variety of sheets. It'll grab the first sheet in that Excel file and start parsing through it, and then forget about all the other sheets. And so you'll get to see tomorrow in our template, most metadata, not all metadata, is actually contained within other pages rather than the first one, so that we can preview the more important, or whatever you as a group or community or user you want to highlight. This is really the opportunity for you to be able to display your data at its full force, and then give an ability to people to be able to do different things with it, like add filters. Here I can select a field and then select it, and I'll choose ID because this is the easier one to do here, because we have a complete list down of numbers. And so obviously here you can see all the different values for ID. And it will work the same if we had, for example, date and time within the first or header row. Now, even with that formatting, we can still kind of look at some data and see what it looks like on a graph. So here, I look back at this and realize that, okay, unnamed right here has data on it, and so does unnamed 2. Unnamed 1 is date and time, and unnamed 2 is temperature. So I'll go back to my graph, choose my first axis, it's the x-axis. So we got dates right there, which is the first field that we needed. And then the second one is going to be our temperatures. Oh, go backwards. Nope. Worked yesterday, but not today. Great. But obviously this would become better, and we are kind of like zoomed in right now. And so the dates are at the bottom here with temperatures on the left side. And so this is a very rough look at how you can just more easily explore the data before you download it. There's one more capability I'd like to show you for previews, but I gotta go onto another data set really quickly here, because I kind of edited it to work for this. So this is the data set that test data set I created. And so here you can see there's just straight values like that, but there's also longitude and latitude fields in this. And so here you have the ability to display points that are within your data set in a map. And so if you think about this, let's say you have a variety of monitoring stations within one data set. Those monitoring stations will have longitude and latitude points or fields within their data set. And so if they have that, you can just click on latitude and longitude fields, find them, latitude, longitude, and update it. Here is my word of advice or warning. This uses a web Mercator projection. And so if you would like to take advantage of this feature, you have to ensure that you transform your coordinates from whatever coordinate system you're using to something that Seekan will be able to preview. And so that's something to keep in mind if you're wanting to take advantage of this capability. And so here, you'll also be able to click and you'll have all the metadata from that one point be given to you. And again, this is something that it's a work in progress. We don't want to have all this incredible amount of metadata be displayed with one point because confusing, as you can see, I can't see all of it, but that's a work in progress. And if you also have, for example, a GeoSum file or field that has geometry put into it, you'll also be able to display lines, points, and polygons, which is a pretty handy tool to have here to just kind of see what you're looking at very quickly. So now that let's say, know that I want this data, all I have to do is click download, and we're on. We got our data. And it's really that easy. We're really trying to make this as easy and simple as possible. And just to go through this maybe one more time, let's change our topic a little bit. Well, I'm curious about what kind of biomonitoring has happened, what kind of biomonitoring data sets are present in our Water Hub right now. And so I'm going to go by data sets here, and I'm going to type in biomonitoring, so it's my spelling. Biomonitoring, search, and we'll look at that. We got 3 files or data sets that have been tagged as biomonitoring. And this is really a good example as to how the Water Hub and Seekan in general handles data sets. Here you can see that we don't only have CSV data, we also have PDFs that are in together with that. And so this is really a mix and what you could expect to be able to do when you're creating a package. So the way that I see this is that you'll be able to finally combine your data with your reports so that people know what people are talking about. This way you have context for data. You can include the pictures, everything that will come along there. Like I said before, we're able to handle basically any kind of file extension. And so I'm interested to see one of these reports. So we have to go here and just click download, and voila, we got ourselves a perfect report for this cabin site. And sorry, I gotta change back like this because the Zoom thing kind of takes over now. And it's a little bit more here. You can see all the metadata that is provided for this resource. And so that's why I mentioned resources compared to data sets before, is because all of these resources are held within the database that is holding all this Flathead River Site 4. Here you can also see all the other resources that are available for the data set, making it super easy for you to be able to scroll through them, not having to go back. Everything's there basically ready for you. And here we're going through all of them. And if we start to go back here, we can look a little bit into our metadata. This is something that I would flag as having incomplete data because some of our required fields are not completed, and this is because it was overloaded before our latest metadata schema. So here in citation, we really want to make sure that your hard work and you really get the accreditation for the hard work that you do in the monitoring and the data that you're providing for everyone. Here, you can put in your data collection organization because maybe you're not the person who's actually collecting the data, but someone else. data processing, where you can include any kind of post-processing that happens to the data after you collect it. Let's say you grab it from a sensor, like a HOPO sensor or something like that, then you have to maybe do some calculations on it or for discharge. And we'll get a little bit more into all that tomorrow. Some keywords and where it is. And altogether, that's where we are. Now, there are other aspects, for example, links, that I'd like to show you. And a quick point here is that we don't necessarily have a home button. And so if you'd like to go home to the main page that we saw, just click on the Water Hub logo or click on this little house right here, and it takes us right back. Now, I was very curious as to what kind of water data I could find around the South Spokane or Crescent Valley area. And so I used my very handy map search tool. And then here we can zoom to the whole Columbia Basin or the extent of data where we can see, for some reason, there's data all the way in, that looks like China. But I'm interested in the Crescent Valley, South Spokane area, which is right here. And would you look at that? There is some water flow data. Wow, a BC hydrometeorological station. This is fantastic. It's just what I was looking for, some water quantity data. And let's see if we can find it. So here you can see some of the metadata filled out. This has some of the all the required fields filled out. And then here, oh, like more information. And wow, it doesn't have the regular download button that I had before. Well, this is because this is a linked resource. And so in the Water Hub, we're going to start collecting datasets that are in other open databases in order to become the central place so that people don't have to go looking for other datasets in other databases. So it will be a slow process as we populate the Water Hub with links to other databases with specific water-related datasets, but we'll get there. And so for the dataset abstract also is 4-day datasets of BC Hydro Station. So let's go check it out. Okay, so this is what we get displayed, and this is what BC Hydro provides us. So you have to have a little bit of more computer knowledge in order to work with this file, as it is in a web browser file, and have to probably work with it as a JSON file. But I haven't played too much with that yet. And so here we can see all 4 days of discharge and the water level, the time, the date. And it gives us 4 days worth, just as we expect. Okay. So now that we have all the links and kind of saw everything and how everything moved along, so now that we have reviewed the main terminology used in the Water Hub, how to find and preview and download data, how to navigate through the database, I would like to open the floor to any questions that are in the chat box, because I haven't seen it and I see 20, just kind of like blinking. And so I'm sure that we have a lot of questions and I'm looking forward to them. And then we'll start with the chat box first, and then we'll make our way over to live questions if there's any left over. So
did you want me to read the questions out, Santiago, or
yeah, sure. You can read them out. Let me just stop sharing here so I can see them. Okay.
Yeah, there's just some comments interspersed between the questions. So one was, can you revisit how to get to user?
To users? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so everyone can see my screen still? Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So up here, you have your name, or you have your name, as I have mine. You just click there. And then this is the only way that I found out how to get to the users in an easy way. And so here, when you're in your profile, all you have to do is click users, and then it'll list you all the different users that we have on there so far. And you can search for them, then do all users again, and go from there and visit their profiles. Does that answer your question, whoever it was? Awesome.
Okay, and then the next one, how to configure to use a LibreOffice Calc instead of Microsoft Excel?
That is not something that I didn't fully think through for open source thing. So whoever that question was, please email me with that, and I'm going to look at it, how we can do that after our webinar.
Okay, and we can include the answer in a follow-up email as well.
Mhm.
Latitude and longitude in decimal degrees only?
Yes, for now, until we develop something that will do it automatically um, for everybody. For now, that's what we're using.
And then Richard, you had a comment. Did you want to, well, Richard's comment was we should be able to enter georeference data in UTM. The metadata needs to show the CRS. It was more of a comment than a question.
Yeah, you should be able to. But again, this is feedback that we're collecting and we're going to introduce in order to kind of make things as easy as possible.
So did anyone want Santiago to revisit anything? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask or type it into the chat.
Hello, it's Noel Berg from the Wassa Lake Land Improvement District.
I know.
Santiago and I have talked a little bit, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it tomorrow or Wednesday. So you will be sending out the link, I think you said, to be able to view the webinars after the fact?
Yeah.
Okay.
So those will land. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Will that also include the link to the database? Because I want to start uploading some data from us.
Yeah, so before I closed, I actually wanted to start setting meetings with who's here so that we can really chat about how that process is going to look like, because we're going to take a kind of like trickle approach rather than just having everyone very quickly input their data. So I really appreciate if we can kind of touch base group by group, and kind of thanks for segueing me into that. But we'll go group by group just so that we make sure that we have a general understanding as to how everything works and how to best approach it, because we also don't want to just overload the database with just data altogether. We want to make sure that it's the right data, it's formatted properly, and the right steps for data management are taken. So
yeah, right on. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for all your great work.
Thank you, Noah. I appreciate your question.
There's another question from Chad Hughes. Would we be able to embed elements, charts, map, etc., into external web pages?
Yes. So I can actually show you. So let's go back to our Water Hub here. Let's go back to our data sets. As use Bill's data set again. And this gets a little bit into tomorrow's, Thursday's data analysis. But here there's a very awesome embed button. Just click the embed button and it should crash me. So I'll get back to everyone in a follow-up email about embedding maps and the previews, but the capability is there for you to be able to embed the tables, embed the graphs, and embed the maps. It just needs to be activated, it seems. So again, work in progress, and we're building and looking for feedback, and that's how we're rolling. So thank you, Chad, for that question.
So there's a question from Martin Carver. When it is operational, will you be searching for and including any relevant open source data you find, or will you be showing only those data sets whose owners initiate the posting?
Thank you, Martin, for that question. So we're gonna be, I call it data hounding. So we're gonna be out there looking for data, asking for data, knocking people's doors, looking through open databases, sending out the links, and making sure that we're becoming that water container that we're talking about, not by only having people's inputs, but also by doing the legwork ourselves, by looking through endless databases and sending endless emails. So that's the plan to populate.
So Santiago, if I have some water level data the last 2.5 years in a table, would I send it to you first for preview to make sure it's going to be formatted properly?
Yeah, what I would do in that case is, like I said, first the process will go like this. A group or you get in contact with me, and then we discuss the Water Hub's data management protocols and kind of what we do and how we take care of your data and how we can help you make your data accessible, make it last long, so longevity and security. And so that would work if, the capacity is not there for you to meet with me and kind of set all that up. I kind of take that on and format it, make it look pretty, make sure that I can contact you for all the metadata that is needed, or you can do that in advance for me. But yeah, there is a lot of flexibility. Ultimately, we're just really trying to be that library, and how that happens is really up to you, the user. We're here for you, trying to provide a platform for collecting all this data that is going to be imperative for creating baseline studies for climate change, for making different um, decision making that is based on actual science and data. And a little like hint on that is that we're trying to find a way as to how we can actually do that, because we want to make sure that we know where this data is going, how it's being used, and is it actually affecting policy, which is ultimately kind of the golden question. Does that answer your question, Bill?
Yeah, it does. Basically, I was working the data up to include everything up to maybe last month, my last upload. And let's say next year, I'll have another year's worth of data to add to it. Would you be, I guess, would that data then would be removed and then collated and then put in the system again?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on sizes of files at that point, and
Right.
we quite haven't gotten to that point. But you can update it, right? You can update, and you have to do it the way that you said it, where it kind of comes down and then it goes up with the new one uploaded. Or what you could do is you can separate your resources into years. And so, for example, you have 2020, and then you have the resource for 2020. You have 2021, you have the resource for 2021. So there you're not actually kind of playing with the data again of downloading and re-uploading and going back and forward, but rather kind of taking advantage of CCAN's capabilities to create a good data management protocol and system that then you can continue on applying systematically. And we'll see with the templates tomorrow. It's kind of like you do it once and it becomes rather easy for you to continue doing it in a way that makes your workflow easier, which is what we're trying to do here too, is trying to make all of our lives easier with some data management. So yeah. And now we can go on to Chad's question. Do you have templates for common data sets so we can check things are correct prior to contacting you? Example, mock CSV files for outputs from Hobo and level loggers, flow measurements, etc. Chad, the short answer is almost there. So currently I have the templates developed for reaching the levels of metadata and information needed to carry out QAQC at risk standards. And so that's what we have in place right now. We'll slowly develop more and more templates to be able to have that ready. But for now, it's going to be kind of me and you sitting down and kind of creating that way that works for you at the beginning too. Because I also don't want to, even though there are some general guidelines, don't get me wrong, I also don't want to restrict people into how they manage their data. And that's where a QAQC protocol comes in, when we're actually digging into the data and making sure that even though it's not to a provincial risk standard and it has, you'll see tomorrow, the huge amount of metadata needed to carry out the QAQC that is required for risk data grading, that's kind of where we're at this exact moment. So I will introduce a water quality template tomorrow and a hydrometric dataset template tomorrow. So that's part of day 2, and it'll be recorded as always. So yeah, thank you, Chad, for that question. I hope that answers it. Awesome, sweet. And then before closing off, if first of all, is there any questions out there anymore? Okay, thank you, Martin. Will your data hounding for relevant open source datasets extend to the USA Columbia Basin? If so, the scope of that effort will be significant. I agree with you, and thank you for that, Martin. That is something that, again, is not fully decided or really thought about before. And thank you for kind of bringing that perspective to me. And again, that would solely depend on whether these data sets are actually hosted for us or we're just providing links to that data. But I'll definitely expand my search to the US now and searching out over south of the border. So thank you. really appreciate this feedback. And again, this is what this is all for. Anybody else?
Okay, I noticed you had some BC Hydro data there. Was that entered by BC Hydro or by you?
No, it was a link that I found on their website. So I was trying to, yeah.
I guess it raises the question of how are you cross-references with other databases such as BC Hydro database, Environment Canada, the BC government databases.
Yeah, so those databases provide metadata for the datasets. And so what CCAN does when you upload a link to resource, and so we'll look more into that tomorrow as to how to upload links. But let me share my screen here with you, and I can give you then a little bit of a sneak peek of tomorrow's in that way. So just go here, share screen, go there, and I'm still logged in. So we're going to add a new data set, and just for the sake of time, we'll just fill out the things here. This I know is going to bother me because there's been like 4 tests. That's their location, that's steward email, something. Please don't do this. It will really make my time a lot harder if you do this. So please don't make this of your own without consulting me first. Make it public, data collection organization, a Santi. And then we need our latitude. So just in between -90 and 90, 50, and 50, just fast. Please pay attention to that. Data grid not applicable, and that's all of required data. Click next, add data. And so here's where we decide whether we upload a physical file from our computer, right? You know, and so here we click upload, we can do this, or we can set a link and then go find that relevant datasets link. And so for example, if you go to data BC and the data catalog and go to, I don't know, natural disturbance type. So data catalog is great because it already uses CCAN, and so they talk to each other very easily. And so here, all I have to do is show the permalink, grab that link when I do grab it. I don't know, it's not showing. So grab it there, and then I would input that into the URL, but we'll go in detail about that tomorrow. And so when I do that, then it grabs the metadata that is within that other database, showing it to us, but it's not actually grabbing the data. It's only showing us where it is and what it is. And so then, like I showed in this link one, here we can't directly download it. If we click download, all it does is take us to this, which was provided by BC Hydro. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. All righty, everybody. So thank you so very much for staying with me for the past hour, giving me your time and your attention. Feel free to reach out to me, like I said. So yeah, thank you.